Everybody's intuitive, everybody's a healer, everybody's a channeler. These are just natural human abilities. Intuition is just the universe having a conversation with you.
Hello, welcome to Resonate, Conversations and Life Lessons from Rancho La Puerta. I'm your host, Barry. As the Director of Guest Experience here at Rancho La Puerta, it is my pleasure to meet many of our guests. And it doesn't matter what time of year they come, where they come from, what their backstory is, they all have a similar message. This place is magical. It's hard to explain what it is or where it comes from, but it's an energy, and you can feel it. Guests say you can't put it into words, but it's definitely real, and it's a feeling you get when you come here. My guest today is Jeffrey Allen. Jeffrey has been teaching about energy and intuition for almost 30 years. He started with a math and science background as a software engineer. He laughs that when he used to talk about energy and intuition with his colleagues, they used to think he was crazy. He believes that's not necessarily the case anymore. I've been fortunate enough to follow him online for about 5 years, and I've learned a lot, and I've been very excited about our conversation today. Hey, Jeffrey, it's great to finally meet you by computer anyways.
Yeah, you too, Barry. Yeah, it's so nice to be on, and I'm excited to have the conversation with you today. I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, and you're coming to me from Tokyo today, is that right?
Yeah, I'm just outside of Tokyo right now, and it's great. There's actually a little bit of snow on the ground, which is kind of unique for this kind of year. It's unusual, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day here in Mexico, so I'm grateful for that. So I found, when doing some research on you, you are like a software engineer, and then you became a energy healer, teacher kind of person.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because a lot of the people that I interview, they have this life-changing event, like they tried to commit suicide or they had this near-death experience and they shifted courses. But from what I've been studying about you, you kind of were doing both simultaneously.
Yeah.
For a while.
That's true. Yeah. I was kind of, my day job was software engineer, and I did that for 15 years. And that was kind of my background in training. But even early on, even in college, I got interested in energy work, where at the time I didn't have any words for it. I just was just interested in finding out why I was having experiences that didn't fit with sort of the scientific logical training that I had. There were some things outside the box, and so I was like, cool, if there's stuff outside the box, teach me more. Mm-hmm. So I studied pretty extensively for many years, and that was just kind of my side job, engineer by day, mm-hmm. healer and intuitive at night. So yeah, it was really fun.
I noticed you use the word intuitive, and I think that you've done like intuitive work or with people, intuitive readings. Intuitive is intuition, and then you're also an energy healer. So I kind of like to talk about the word energy and the word intuitive.
For energy healing, it's actually pretty simple. I believe everybody's intuitive, everybody's a healer, everybody's a channeler. These are just natural human abilities. But most of us have lived in a society and grew up where we're kind of trained that using our mind, our analytical mind, is what's, the best thing. That's where we get the biggest validation, the biggest paycheck, that's mm-hmm. where everybody's kind of told that's the way we should go. And so even though we have these natural abilities, people don't really pay attention to them, even though they're having them, even though everybody's listening is having intuitive experiences all the time, mm-hmm. getting guidance all the time, and, feeling energies all the time. Most people don't really have the language or the familiarity to contextualize those experiences, but they're happening all the time. Intuition is just the universe having a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. And that's, the more you practice with that, the more you realize, oh, this is an interactive conversation. It's not just one way. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that you turn on and off, although your awareness that it's happening kind of comes and goes. Especially at the beginning, when I was first starting, I was watching, I was reading books and stuff, and finding out, oh, other people were having these cool intuitive experiences, but I didn't feel like I was having them. And over the years, as I got more and more adept at it, and I started to notice that maybe it was happening all the time. I'd be talking to somebody, and they'd say, "When's the first time you noticed your intuition?" And I'd say, oh, when I was 28, this thing happened. And then the next time somebody asked, it'd be like, oh, actually, when I was 20, this thing happened. It was intuition. And then the next time it was like, oh, when I was 16, this thing happened. And it just kept getting, as my awareness grew, it just kept getting earlier and earlier until I realized, oh, I've always had intuition. I've always had this conversation with the universe. Just most of the time I didn't know I was having it, or I sort of put it in a different context. A lot of times we think that, oh, I had a brilliant idea, rather than noticing that, oh, there's brilliant ideas all the time in the energy field, and I just happen to be sort of adjacent to one, or I happen to, I was in a position where I could realize one of those, and so it kind of, I resonated with it, and then I started, following it, and so it's really just a way of, rather than an ability that I would say people need to develop, I would say it's just adjusting your mindset to realize that you're doing it already. So and that's true for intuition and in many ways energy healing as well.
Is energy vibration? Is that what you would, I don't know if you can define it that way?
Yeah, you can, if you're looking at a physical level, yeah, vibration's a good way to measure things. Energy is kind of a slippery word. We just use it, I use it to mean the things that you're not seeing and feeling and touching and hearing and tasting, but that you're still experiencing, and you don't have any other word for it. So it's kind of like, some people will say it's a sixth sense, but to me, it's actually all of your senses, but it's all of your senses without being localized in time and space. Right. So your body is this really amazing, kind of biological machine, and it's just part of you, and it's the small part of you. There's much more of you outside your body than inside, but we get this, it's just funny, the way that we experience the world through the lens of this body oftentimes confuses our general understanding of how things work. Like, most people are surprised when I say, your spirit isn't in your body's in your spirit. People are like, what? I don't understand. It's like, well, yeah, because there's more of you, than there is, outside the body than there is inside the body. But this experience is so fantastic, and it's like, but it's the only part of you that's localized in time and space. The rest of you is not. And so intuition is all of your normal senses, without that caveat that you're only going to pay attention to the ones that are localized in time and space. And that's why everything is accessible. You can reach into the what feels like the past, the future, different places on the planet. When you start doing energy readings, or like when I was doing energy readings full time professionally, people could call me from anywhere in the world, and just I didn't know them. I never used video. We just talked, audio, and I would just have people tell me their name 3 times to kind of help them get grounded and present in their body, and also help me kind of tune into their vibration. And from there, we could just start and say, here's what I'm receiving about you. Here's what I'm noticing. And we'd talk about, before they even asked a question, I could just start talking about them. And then they'd just say, well, what about my relationship with my brother? And we'd say, okay, now I can follow your energy to your brother. And then we can talk about that. And we can look at your history, and we can look at past lives. And it really blew me away. That's why I got really fascinated and started studying. So I was like, this seems like really ridiculous and outside the bounds of what our normal society has taught me is real, because I went through the normal schooling and in college and everything, and nobody mentioned any of that stuff.
When you do like an energy reading on someone, where is that information coming from? Is it coming from the universe to you, or through their vibration and their energy?
Yeah. No, that's a really insightful question. So what's actually happening is it's not coming from anywhere outside, right? So like usually when I first started doing it and talking about it, the perception I had was that it was something from the outside. It's my guides talking to me, or it's, tuning into your guides, or because I'm used to a body experience, things that I couldn't, touch and say this is my body were things outside of me. But over the years, and especially through the work with my wife Usami, I understood that, there's not this whole concept of, we're separate. And even the concept that we're connected, and that's why I'm getting information, we're connected, that's actually the same concept. That's the concept of distance. That's a physical concept. But energy work and reading isn't in the physical space. And so instead of being connected or receiving information from somewhere else, all the information is co-located in one place. So that's what we see when we look at the quantum, get deep into quantum mechanics. So the information isn't coming from anywhere. It's all available all the time from any, place, because it's not localized in time space. It is time space. It's really hard to put into words because it just sounds, it's very hard to contextualize it because we're so used to the world being a certain way. But when you dive deep and you really start playing, and that's what I encourage people to do, is to dive deep and get your own experiences. It really doesn't matter what I tell you or what other people say. If you don't have your own experiences, things are just ideas. They're not really real in a way that you can kind of live by them. Yeah.
It's interesting you said experiences, because I've heard you in the past say the difference between your beliefs and your experiences. And beliefs are things that maybe we've been programmed with in our material mind, perhaps.
Yeah, and you're kind of hitting on when you say material mind. Yeah, that's my wife Usami kind of simplified all the things, experiences I was having, and put it in a really interesting context in her teaching. And she basically said, well, you have two minds. You have this material mind that's used to the material world. It's fantastic at that, and that's what it's made for. But you also have another mind, which is a spirit mind. And this is just what we were talking about. This is what you could call it universe. You could call it higher self. You could call it guides. You could call it God. You could call it, like any of these words that are defining some higher power that feels bigger than us. But when you start realizing, I have these two parts of me, and I can learn to sort of bring them together and experience them at the same time. I can turn down this noisy, mind with all my ideas and beliefs about the world, the material mind, like you said. And I can learn to sort of turn this down, take a little step back and observe. And all of a sudden, that's when you start to notice, oh, wow, all these things that I was so convinced were real, or that I've been trying to convince other people were real, maybe I'm not so sure anymore.
Right.
Like maybe they're just some cool ideas I heard, or some experiences I had that I didn't quite understand, so I filled in the blanks.
Right.
That's what our mind is best at, is taking a few snapshots and then assembling them, just making up a movie about it so that it fits into our experience. That's what the mind is great at, the material mind. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, something that made it kind of easier for me to understand, and I think I heard you say this at one point, that the material mind looks for answers on the outside, and the spiritual mind looks for answers on the inside.
Yeah, that's a nice way to contextualize it. Yeah, if you're looking outward for answers, that's a very natural thing when you think this is all you are.
Right.
But when you realize that you and the universe are no different, suddenly, there's nothing outside to look for. It's like, what's outside the universe?
Right.
Nothing. Everything's in the universe. Yeah.
Could you think that your spiritual mind is your essence or your soul, or connected to?
Yeah, I would say, the spirit mind, it's basically who you are. So it's not something that, you can learn or something outside of you. It's basically who you are. And that's really makes it really fun to help people with this, is how do we just help people remember, like, here's who you actually are.
Yeah.
Of course, we're also amazing people in amazing bodies having these amazing lives. And this is all true too.
Right.
But it's not the core essence of who you are. And the reason why it's interesting to look at this is that if you're only operating inside the bounds of, external things, so external validation, or, I want to achieve some things or make more money or create more abundance, or, all the things that we normally get excited about. If you're only doing those things, it's really difficult, maybe even impossible to have a full sense of fulfillment within, because fulfillment doesn't come from external sources. Fulfillment is about, changing, instead of using the mind that comes from scarcity and deals in the world of material things, switching into your mind that's in abundance and is, one with the entire universe. And like in that space, it feels like home. You feel fulfilled, even if your business isn't doing great, your relationship's falling apart, even if the external world has big challenges, there's still, like when you tune into spirit mind, it's like, oh, why do I still feel good? Like, shouldn't I be more worried about, I'm kind of worried that I'm not worried enough about money. Like I'm like,
Right.
like suddenly you start noticing like, okay, like what happened here? Like my, my, normal stressful part of me
Right.
is doesn't seem present. Is that okay? Is that, is this okay?
Right. Oh, yeah. It sounds like it speaks to it's like a higher purpose, a higher power in each of us. Sometimes I think we lose awareness of it in this crazy world that we live in. So I like something when you were talking about, you said one time energy has priority in your body. And I like that concept, but could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. Your energy has priority in your body. Yeah. So
Right.
this is a lot of people. Or a lot of people ask, how do I protect myself from bad energies or other energies?
Right.
And so in my energy training program, that's the first thing I say is, well, if you're not feeling good, there's only one reason. It's because you're not feeling you. So obviously you can feel sick and things like this. I'm not talking about the physical body, but if you're feeling like, there's some energy I need to protect myself from because it's harming me or polluting me or distracting me or whatever, all you have to realize is, you're the only reason. Well, just use the example, like, so if this body is this glass, and the energy inside this water is your energy. The only reason anything else will fit in here is because you're not full of your energy. And a lot of times we'll see like there's a little bit of something else floating on top. It's not us. And, imagine a little oil floating on here. And so then it's really natural to say, oh, what tools can I use? Should I get a spoon or a sponge or some high-tech laser? Or, how am I going to get that oil out of there? But when you realize, your energy has priority in your body, it's just like this glass. If you just pour more water in, the water will fill up and then the oil will just float off the top. And you didn't have to do anything. Same is true for your energy. If you're full of your own energy and vitality, and that's going to feel really good. That's how you know that's happening, because your energy always feels good to you. But if you're full of your own energy, that energy has priority in your body. So there won't be any other disruptive things in there that you're trying to figure out how to get rid of.
How do you teach people to fill up their cup with their energy?
That's a good question. In many ways. I mean, there's a lot of, if you're into energy tools, the energy training I do with Mind Valley, that's a really powerful way. It kind of teaches about the energy body, the chakras, the aura, and how to run your energy and fill up. And so that, you can go, there's many really interesting, deep training programs that people have on filling up, with your own energy. But you can also just be present in the moment. You can just really connect with the person you're sitting next to, or, Hisami says, even if you just kind of like touch something with your hand, like all of a sudden, boom, it just, brings you right back into the body. You can feel yourself in your chair or your feet on the ground. Breathing, you can notice like, oh, I'm breathing. All these things bring you back like into the present moment, which lets your material mind calm down. And all of a sudden you're here having this experience in the body. And when you do that, your attention, your energy is literally in your body. And so, of course, you're filling up. Most of the time, if we're honest with ourselves, I don't know if everybody's like me, but for me, most of the time, if I'm not really paying attention, it's very easy to have my attention everywhere else. Thinking about that email, I'm thinking about, this project that I'm working on, this, remodel project, or I'm thinking about a conversation I had with my friend, or something I want to have with my friend, or, just all thoughts are all over the place, everywhere but here and now, right in this moment. And so then that's the state in which, we're not really full, and there's just room for other things to be present.
Is meditation a tool that you would encourage people to use too? Because I feel like sometimes meditation helps me to quiet my material mind a little so that I can focus more on here.
Yeah, meditation definitely can be powerful. Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say that it's required, but it's a really helpful tool. I spent a lot of years, there were, every morning I'd wake up, first thing I did is, maybe brush my teeth or use the bathroom, and then it's like, boom, time to meditate. And that kind of practice is fantastic. It's just a way, it just helps you
Right.
develop the habit of being here
Right.
as a priority rather than as an afterthought. Like,
Right.
you know,
Hi, my name is Janelle. I'm one of the therapists at the Holistic Health Department at the ranch, and I specialize in energy medicine and cranial sacral therapy. I often talk about how our body is the map of everything we've ever experienced. Sometimes we might have a pain that could be just physical or emotional. It could be part of the structure. We could have had a car accident or some kind of surgery that could affect our bodies. And so I kind of am a pain detective. I help release pain, any kind of stuck energy in the body. And it could actually be transformational, releasing something that you might have carried 20, 30 years. So check us out and come and have a session.
I hope you're enjoying today's podcast as much as I am. To learn more about our wonderful presenters and exciting weeks coming up at the ranch, go to rancholaporta.com and check out our events calendar. Make sure to mention the podcast when making your reservation to take advantage of a special offer. Some restrictions may apply. How do you know that what you're getting is intuition as opposed to, because I have a lot of science-based friends.
yeah.
I won't say their names on here, but they kind of think, that I'm just not being a realistic person, that I'm just turning coincidences into miracles and believing that things are coming from a different place.
Yeah, I can totally relate because, I like I said, I was doing both these things at once. I was learning about intuition. I was going to a school called Psychic Rising Center. So, even saying that word, people are like, oh, okay, that's crazy or that's scary.
Yeah.
It's like, and at the same time, I had top secret security clearance and worked for the Department of Energy doing research, and so it's like, and then I worked in corporate America for Sun Microsystems. And so these two worlds, I quickly learned.
Department of Energy, that's kind of ironic.
Yeah, it's a whole different kind of energy. Yeah.
Right.
But it's fun because in both worlds, there's people that I respect and admire and love and look up to, but the language is so different, seemingly. Now for me, what I always noticed is, my background is in mathematics and science. I've got a math degree and I've got 2 computer science degrees, and so it's not like these thinking is foreign to me, right? I mean, I know how to do that. I know how to think logically and scientifically, but when I look at skepticism, to me, I would say, one, it's a good thing, but the thing we should be most skeptical of is our own thoughts. Where am I fooling myself? Because that's the hardest thing for all of us to see. And the easiest way to get through that is to have experiences. So to just say, okay, I'm just going to, like when early on I was having experiences where I was in college and I'd see light around somebody and I'm like, okay, I don't really understand what's happening here. It's, am I dreaming or, it was really hard to figure it out. But then when I started to pay attention, I was like, okay, I'm having experiences that don't fit into what I think is reality. So one of those two isn't right. Either my experiences are insane or my beliefs are insane. And I took the road that people usually don't take, which is I said, well, what's happening is happening. I don't understand it, but I'm going to dig a little deeper and see if I can understand it. And then I just kept, that was, a slippery slope. And then I looked at the beliefs and said, where did these beliefs come from anyway? And the best I could come up with, this was in college, was somebody told me.
Right.
My teachers, my parents, the news. I'm like, somebody told me is not really a really compelling reason to hang on tightly to something. I'm like, okay, so, I don't want to get completely in left field, but I'm going to start having experience. I'm going to invite in experiences and just try it for myself, because that's the only way I'm personally going to know. To me, that's science, right? That's like, I'm going to base my beliefs on my actual experiences, not the way that I was told it should be or would be.
Yeah. I mean, I read somewhere that a belief is just something you keep telling yourself over and over again. So you could change a belief as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I just joke with my friends that, you know what, if I'm fooling myself, I'd rather be feeling happy. Why not be feeling good in this moment than not be feeling good in this moment?
Yeah. Super insightful, actually, Barry, because we're all, our beliefs in general are not real. I think that's a good fundamental assumption everybody can make. Like, beliefs are something that are changing all the time.
Right.
But we have this remarkable ability to feel like what we believe now is 100% true. But people kind of miss the fact, like I can say something's 100% true, 100% true, 100% true. And then I get some new experience or I learned something. And then I'm like, this new thing is 100% true. I was wrong. But somehow it doesn't occur to people I'm also wrong now. That next year, I'm also going to learn and grow.
Right.
And then what I have now is going to be feel incomplete or wrong.
Right.
And it's like every year I like to look back on the year and just kind of remember, oh, where was I a year ago? And I always look back with a little bit of kind of amusement, like like I can't believe I was really, that's where I was really at. And then I remember, and next year I'll be looking at me, chuckling, enjoying the growth I had. And so from that space, it's like that's a fun space to live in.
I heard you also, and it sounds like I listen to you all the time, but I heard you say also one time, it's intuition because it's coming from love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
back to your actual question. Yeah.
I was interviewing someone who I respect her a ton, and she was just saying that love is a word that is too small to mean what we want it to mean, all the things that we throw into love. But I think it also goes, for me, love goes back to something you talked about earlier, where like you talked about energy. It's what you can't feel, see, or touch, but you know that it exists on this deep level, right?
Yeah.
So if you can be in touch with that, I think, then that's good. Do you believe that there is an ultimate truth?
An ultimate truth? Sure. It'd be hard for me to buy into an ultimate truth that's unchanging, though.
Right.
Right. So, because I think the universe is demonstrably changing all the time. And even though in our kind of limited time spans, it's hard to notice that the rules are changing. Science is trying to say, okay, let's just kind of figure out the rules, the basics behind stuff that'll help us predict what's going to happen next and, kind of carve our reality in a nice way. But I think our lens is very small, 100 years at best for people, even generations, we're talking maybe 1,000 years. And the universe is big, right? So I suspect that, if you kind of looked at the arc of change in our lifetimes, it's hard to notice, but even the rules behind everything are probably evolving and changing all the time. So I think there's a universal truth, but it's probably not something we can understand with our logical material mind. Yeah. And it's probably, it's definitely also not necessary for us to understand it. I mean, you can live a completely fulfilled, fun, happy, joyful life and not even ask the question, so it's not, it's interesting, but it's not required to know.
Do you have any beliefs, or maybe it's not required also, any beliefs about what happens after this particular physical body that is carrying around your spiritual mind?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I actually spent a lot of time poking into that because it's such a fascinating question. So, one thing that happened when I was starting to do readings for people is we started noticing, we kind of look at, when did something happen earlier in this life, earlier? And pretty quickly we were popping through into other lifetimes. And so I was like, okay, I don't know if this is real or not. That's why I just tell people, I would say, no, all I can do is tell you what I'm picking up. It's up to you to decide if that's useful or, real for you. But I'm just going to be brave. I'm just going to be honest and tell you what I'm seeing and hearing and feeling. And so we'd look at people's past lives, all kinds of information about the dynamics of relationships, the experiences that were traumatic, that they were still carrying some momentum from. And I'd be saying all this at first, and I was just like, oh, this person's totally going to think I'm nuts, and then, but I'm just going to go for it. I decided, hey, I'm just going to dive as deep as I can into this end of the pool, because otherwise I'll never know what's real. And then people would, over and over, people would say, wow, that totally makes sense. Like, that's exactly how my brother is today, even though you said he was my mom in a past life, and so, and so over time, I did thousands of readings. I did this for 10 years. And so over time, it's like, okay, either have some superpower of not just making up compelling stories, but convincing everybody that they're true, which I don't think I have that superpower, or I'm actually picking up on something that's actually happening and that we have experiences across multiple bodies and lifetimes. And I've also been really fascinated by, I've had a few people that were close to me die, where I was able to hang out with them energetically as they transitioned. And so to kind of see what happens, and that, oh, I'm still able to connect with them and talk to them when they're not in their body. And in fact, it's in some ways, it's a little bit easier. It's a little more authentic. Yeah, because they're not, once you're out of the body, all the belief system that you've kind of built up while you're in this body is present in the sense that you're aware of it, but it's not present in the sense that you believe it's true anymore.
Right.
And so there's this big awakening that happens. It's like, you're walking around kind of all walk around looking at all the pictures of reality that we think is true, our belief systems, like, it's everywhere. And so everywhere we look, we see it. And then all of a sudden, like, that's gone. Or if you're doing energy work, or, that's what we try to kind of do in energy healing. A lot of times it's just about sort of pushing this back a little bit, getting a little bit of distance, and suddenly you're like, oh, there's a lot more going on. Just this little thing I'm fixated on. Like, this is, doesn't mean this isn't true at all. It just means there's more.
Right.
If
No,
there's more.
I
I can put it in context. And sometimes all you need is a little context to switch from suffering to, laughing. So.
No, and I think I love the way you said that. I mean, that really resonates with me for sure. Something else I want to talk to you about, because lately I've been hearing a lot of people saying this, and I think I've heard you say it too, that there seems to be a shift in the energy on this planet. We're kind of shifting. I mean, some lady who believes in astrology was telling me we're going into a different, like Aquarius now, which is a different energy than what we've been in. And I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. Do you feel like it's shifting from more of a material mind to a spiritual mind?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a huge shift happening. It's not actually from material mind to spirit mind. It's about the material mind is, our logical mind is kind of turning down right now. Mm-hmm. And that's the energy that's shifting on the planet. The vibration's a little higher, so this is kind of taking a hit. So if anybody's noticed that, if you've noticed, like I have my ability to focus and get things done seems a lot less than it was a few years ago. And, sometimes you feel like, oh, am I losing my edge, or am I going to be okay?
Right.
And, it's a little stressful that things are turning down for everybody. But it's fine. Why it's turning it down is just so that it can sort of pop inside the space of spirit mind. Mm-hmm. So the goal is to have your material mind awareness living within spirit mind, rather than having it outside, believing that it's separate from the universe. Right. And, that's where all of our stress and anxiety and all the actual kind of basically every problem that we have in society is all about, we've forgotten that, oh, I'm actually a spirit. I'm not just a body primarily. Yeah.
You said something that I hear all the time, that the vibration is going up.
Yeah.
What does that mean when people talk about that? The vibration is going up on the planet, because it seems like it's a very painful time on the planet to a lot of us right now. Does it get really painful and it explodes up, or what happens?
Well, I think it's an awesome time, but yeah, basically, vibration. Again, these words you got to kind of take them with a grain of salt. You can't take things too literally. That you're hearing when you hear people talking about energy. Don't take it too literally. But there are kind of like pseudoscience measurements. You can say, oh, the Schumann resonance is changing over the years, so that literally the vibration of the planet is getting faster. Okay, that's a measurable thing. Right. Maybe that's related, probably. But nobody's really kind of nailed it into a scientific model. But my own experience is that as the vibration is raising, our consciousness is becoming more open to other things. It more, like I said, our material mind is making its way into the space of spirit mind, where all the information is there. So as we do that, there's this sense that something is a little bit off. There's a sense like I'm kind of like losing my mind in some ways in the short time frame. Mm-hmm. But if I look at the long time frame, I've seen people gaining much more. So I don't think it's something we need to fear. So like even in my lifetime, I'm in my mid-50s now, but when I was a kid, physical fitness wasn't really a thing. Mm-hmm. In the 80s, I grew up in the 70s, 80s, and if you saw somebody running down the street, you were wondering where the fire was.
Right.
or,
Yeah, I know.
or if they stole something, right? That just wasn't a thing, right? And then, but then there was this big, physical fitness boom, and then it went from being unknown to being just weirdos to being everybody to being like, why aren't you doing it? Like, what's wrong with you for not paying attention to physical fitness? And so we saw that happen. So the same thing's happening with what we would kind of call the spiritual realm. We're going in, we're this, spiritual fitness, if you will, is sort of on the rise. So when I started studying energy work, if I talked about it, back in the 90s, when I was working for the Department of Energy, I was afraid I would lose my security clearance. Like if I talked about it, I'd lose my job. And even years later, when I was working in corporate America, a lot of people I worked with would say, like, you're really smart and I really respect you, but man, what do you mean energy and intuition? Like now I'm kind of thinking I can't trust you, so, but those times are really gone. Like now, when I was just in Dubai speaking at a conference, and there's these amazing CEOs coming up from huge corporations and movements, and they're like, "Wow, energy work, this is great. Where do I find out more?
Yeah.
Sign me up. I want to dive in." So what's changed is consciousness has changed. For something that was like scary and bad and evil has now become something like kind of exciting and people are curious about. And you can see it not just with this topic, but all across the board. So this is our consciousness is rising. That's probably the most interesting part to look at, rather than the vibration of the planet.
Yeah. No, I think that's super interesting. Yeah. So I don't want to take a lot of your time because I know you're super busy. I would love if you ever want to come to Rancho La Puerta and present. That would be so awesome. So you have an open invitation anytime you want to come.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I super appreciate you talking to us. I think do you have a master class that people can sign up online?
Yeah, there's kind of two places you can find me. So if you're interested in energy work in particular, then Mind Valley has, my energy training duality, and there's a free masterclass you can sign up for there. We'll kind of go through and give you some tangible experiences right now while you're listening, where you can say, "Ooh, something happened," and then now you've got to reconcile your beliefs with your experiences, like I talked about. So that's a really powerful kind of start, get you involved. You can also find me on spiritmind.com, which is the most recent work I'm doing with my wife Hisami. So if you resonate with this talk about material mind and spirit mind and moving into that space, that's all going to be on spiritmind.com.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, thank you so much, and I look forward to next time. Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, me too. My conversation with Jeffrey today certainly did not disappoint. I loved realizing that we're all just beings made up of energy. And what feeds that energy is being true to your authentic self. That's what keeps your vibration level high and fills your energy cup. I also found our conversation about beliefs versus experiences to be very enlightening. Our beliefs come from our subconscious mind and sometimes are created years ago. And our experiences sometimes teach us something different. So why not change our beliefs so they're more congruent with the person we are now and the person that we are becoming? When I asked Jeffrey, how do you know that your intuition is coming from an authentic place? He said, if it's coming from a place of love, it's your intuition. I'm going to continue to ponder our conversation and explore and learn from it. I hope you will too. Until next time, this is Barry wishing you health, daily joy, and abundant energy.